Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Protocol Pegasus here, bringing back to you guys in Remnant from the Ashes, and today we are taking a look at my all-new build, known as the Soul of the Widowmaker. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so the build is going to be as followed. For my sidearm, I am using Twin Shot with the weapon mod attached onto it, known as the Very Good Boy. From there, I am using the primary weapon known as the standard shotgun with the weapon mod attached onto it known as Swarm. From there, I'm using my melee weapon known as Smolder. Then for my armor piece, I'm using the full Widowmaker set for the helmet, chest, and legs. Then from there, I'm using for the necklace the Talisman of Animosity. I probably pronounced that wrong, I apologize. But then from there, for my first ring, I'm using the good old-fashioned Soul Link, and then for my second ring, I'm using Alchemist Gem. But enough about all that, let's go ahead and jump over into traits. So for the traits, the three main ones I would highly recommend for this build is going to be as followed. So I would recommend utilizing Quick Hands, Exploiter, and Handling. These are the three primary traits I recommend for this particular build setup. However, like I always say within the course of each and every build video I happen to do, I highly recommend going for each and every trait within the course of the game because there is no set cap limit. You can be able to capitalize on every trait within the game, minimax your character to the best of its abilities, and be ready and able to handle any given situation that happens to be thrown at you. But enough about all that, let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay. Alright, so we are here on Yasha. We are playing on Apocalypse mode. So we're going to go over the pros and cons of this particular build, so I suggest you sit back, relax, and enjoy. So one of the particular pros of this particular build is going to be the fact that it is a lightweight frame build. What that means is you'll have the ability to not only maneuver around the map pretty easily, but you'll also be able to reposition yourself accordingly without having to worry about getting staggered, caught off guard, or so on and so forth. Being a lightweight frame usually means they happen to be relatively squishy. However, since we are using the ring that allows us to buff our overall armor output, we're actually a little bit more tankier than what you can expect. So this build can actually go about taking 1 or 2 hits on Apocalypse mode before actually going down, which is a really nice feeling considering the fact that usually with these lighter base builds, you'll have the off chance that you will get encountered by an enemy and you'll end up getting put out, and from there you end up dying to the first hit from a boss or so on and so forth. But that's not the case with this particular build. You'll see throughout the course of the video that I will take a few hits here and there, and I'll still be able to consistently keep myself up, as well as being able to self-sustain myself. Now the way I go about self-sustaining myself is going to be pretty simplistic. All I have to do is make sure the dog happens to be up, and once the dog does damage to my set opponent, then from there I'm not only going about getting healing, but I'm also doing damage to that set opponent as well. From there, as long as the dog's doing damage, I'm always sustainably healing, which is really nice. Another cool concept too with the dog, if you guys didn't happen to know, is that every time you pet the dog, you do get a passive buff. This buff, for whatever reason, isn't actually labeled or registered anywhere within the course of the game, but it is there, I do assure you. From there, what the buff pretty much does is it gives you passive health regeneration by a small percentage amount. From there, that small percentage amount will allow you to go about not only regenerating health, but to self-sustain yourself accordingly if you end up getting any status effects and it ends up taking you down after a certain amount of time, because it will kind of counteract from the small health regeneration that you do get with the overall buff that you get from petting the dog. Another cool aspect to that buff that you do end up getting from petting the dog is that it actually does stack with things like your health potions or any other forms of health regeneration. So from there, it just amplifies any form of health regeneration that you already have, which is really, really nice. Another cool and fun aspect with this build is the shotgun. Let me tell you, when I was putting this build together at the end of the day, I didn't think the shotgun was as fun because I didn't find it as viable as what it actually is in Apocalypse mode, but I was wrong. The shotgun is super viable with the overall range output, the amount of rounds it has on it, and the sheer burst potential. And let's not forget about the hitbox. It just feels so good and so crisp. Honestly, I don't have any issues or complaints with it, other than the fact that it does have a pretty long reload animation, so that is something to keep in mind. But man, does this shotgun really do justice. Especially the fact of if you're just trying to maneuver around the map, collecting resources, scrap, whatever the case may be, utilizing this particular build to go about doing so makes things a hell of a lot easier and a lot more fun too, because it's been a while since I've actually got my hands on a really nice shotgun build, and I must say this build definitely does the shotgun very, very nice justice. One of the things I will say is that I did end up compensating the shotgun with the sidearm twin shot, just because of the fact that the sidearm twin shot allowed me to go about getting a little bit of range that I needed with the particular build. So if I wasn't close up all the time, or if I was going up against boss fights such as this one, I had the range to be able to counteract a lot of the stupid maneuvering that the bosses end up doing to me, or if I just end up being caught out and I want to backpedal a little bit, I have the ability to do so. Or if I want to safely charge my mods from a distance, I can use twin shot to easily do it. So utilizing that with the shotgun actually played out a lot better than to be expected, which is really nice. From there, another cool aspect too is that utilizing the twin shot, I was able to not only safely charge my mods, but I was able to consistently keep up my damage with critical hit ratings, because the crit hit rating on the twin shot is actually really good. Another cool thing is too is that this build doesn't really do it justice when it comes to overall AoE output damage. However, I do use Swarm to compensate for that fact, which will allow you to not only hurt multiple enemies, but then from there also consistently build up your other mod charge for the dog. So a lot of the times the dog's usually always up, so you're usually always getting self-sustained, always doing AoE output damage, and you're always consistently moving. So at the end of the day, the build is pretty well rounded, and I really didn't see any fall offs in particular with this overall build. And let me tell you something, it was definitely a lot of fun. One of the most fun shotgun builds I've played thus far. And what's nice about it is too is that this armor you actually get at the early start of the game, and the shotgun you also get at the early start of the game too. So a lot of these pretty much core items I'm utilizing for this build you do get right at the beginning of the game. So you can use a lot of these items right off the start, which is also very, very fun. Just to be able to dive into a build that you know is going to be very viable right out of the gate. So there is that. One of the drawbacks I will say to this build, like I said before, is that there's not much AoE to it. The reload animation is a little bit longer than to be expected, so you kind of have to play out your routine a little bit more preemptively than what you would normally do. So like for example, if I'm going into an encounter, I want to make sure that everything is reloaded continuously, and from there I don't end up getting caught off guard because I'm constantly reloading. So one way to go about avoiding that, especially if you're in a really tough boss fight such as like this one, a good way to avoid constantly reloading is by using your ammo crates. So if you haven't noticed already, I do use my ammo crates a few times in the course of this boss fight, but basically what it allows you to do is it cancels out the 2 reload animations and just makes 1 reload animation, which reloads both your weapons. And then from there, you don't have to constantly keep swapping weapons and going through reload animations, and not only do you not have to do that, but you get a shorter animation too. So at the end of the day, instead of doing 2 reload animations that are somewhat longer, you can do 1 and reload both your weapons. So that's why I use a lot of ammo crates, as you see here, even though I don't really need them. It's just because I want to be able to maximize my efficiency by not getting stuck in an animation lock and getting myself killed because of it. So a lot of times I'll just spam an ammo crate and just take the extra ammo, reload both my weapons, and I get a shorter animation. So it ends up working out a lot better in my favor. Another cool thing too with this particular build as well is that since you are super light, it's actually really easy to kite around. You don't have to worry about really getting caught out too much because you can backpedal super easily with this particular build, and if anyone happens to come up to you, you just blast in the face with a shotgun. So it is very nice. In order to compensate for the lack of AoE, usually just tie in your dog as well as the swarm and you're usually in pretty good standing. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, with the overall build. It was definitely a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you haven't gone about trying out a shotgun build thus far. I definitely recommend trying this one out. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it, guys. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And if you haven't already, I hope you guys are having a really good day, and I hope to see you guys real soon. Later.